everyone, and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to go over a couple of really adorable, quick, fun projects. These are little zip pouches. They are raw edge projects, which we'll talk about in more detail in just a moment, but these are just little ideas that came to me recently with the upcoming holiday of Valentine's Day coming up. I thought this would be fun. Today, we're going to walk through the CuteHeart zip pouch pattern, and we're gonna walk through the Magical Mouse zip pouch pattern. Now, originally, I was just thinking, hey, I wanna make a little zip pouch for Valentine's Day, something fun. I saw some other ideas out there that weren't really hitting me, and so I was like, I just wanna go with zipper right down the center. But then after we got that done, you know, we have a nice big zipper pocket here. I was like, what if we folded it in half? And then we added a snap, and now we have a half heart project with one zipper, but pretty much two separate pockets because they're split up on that fold, which I thought was really fun and really cute. And this is something you can easily adapt to use with regular vinyl. You could use clear vinyl. So this is like a jelly clear vinyl. So the front panel here does not have a lining. You could use it for the back as well. You could add some D-rings on it to make it a little wristlet, to make it a crossbody strap. You can do a lot with this idea, which I thought was really fun. So this is the CuteHeart, which is kind of a play on sweetheart. It's just CuteHeart. And then we decided, after so many requests, we'll do the Magical Mouse as well. So this is a mouse shape, and it has the same idea, the zipper down the middle, and the snaps on the side. If you'd like, you can leave them off, and you can have a half one. Again, you can make it a crossbody, you could make it a wristlet, you could make a little bow that snaps on and off so you can change it out, which is really fun. I'm going to show you how to do that. But both of these patterns are OklaRoots patterns, and these are Sew for a Cause patterns, meaning there's a digital download available on Shop OklaRoots. I'll have a link down below where you can go access it. You will get the PDF with the templates for both of these. However, it is not a full written pattern. We don't have anything like that yet. If you're interested in a full, proper written out pattern so you don't have to use the video every time, leave a comment down below and we'll add it to the list. But for now, we just wanted to get something out really quickly, which means this is just the PDF and SVG files if you want to use like a Cricut or something like that to cut it out. Those will be available, and all the money for that goes to the charity of the month. But with that, there are no current written instructions. It is just the print out, and then you'll use the video to see how to put it all together. But I'll tell you, it is very, very simple, very basic. Once you go through one of them, I think you'll have their general idea, and you won't need to keep watching the video every time, unless you just want to hang out with me every time you make one, which, you know, I'm here, so I would love it. If you love this heart-shaped everything right now, I want to encourage you to go check out Edgecoat Designs. She is coming out with a wallet that's kind of like this, but it's like a full-blown proper wallet where like you have zippers and card slots and all this other stuff. So if you want to do something like that, go check out Edgecoat Designs. She also has this beautiful heart-shaped bag. If you love all things hearts, you're going to want to check her out. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shout-outs, anything at all, leave it down in the comment section. Like I said, if you'd like a full PDF pattern. Now, full written out patterns with photos and written out instructions, those are not free. Those would be a paid pattern. So if you'd like to see the ones we currently have, you can kind of go see how we do that. We have the spice rack, so you can see how I write my patterns out. We can definitely do that. We do have plans of going through all of the OklaRoots patterns that we currently only have templates for. Throughout the year, we're going to create patterns for all of them. But again, the templates will always remain as is. So you'll always have the option to just download the templates and use the video, or purchase a full blown out pattern. But let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know which one you prefer. Like I mentioned, this is a raw edge project, which means no cotton woven material here, no quilt cotton. We're using vinyl, water resistant canvas, leather, faux leather, things like that. So we have a shiny vinyl here. This is like a glow in the dark vinyl on the back. For the lining, I am using water resistant canvas. Anything that can be left raw edge. I know a lot of you guys are like, water resistant canvas? Yes, you can. Actually, you can just kind of burn the edges of it and it seals it in. So those will all work great for this. You can also edge coat this, which is what I did on this one here. I don't know if you guys can see, but I did this beautiful black edge coating. Edge coating is like just painting the edges so you don't see the raw edges anymore. It's absolutely beautiful. But because this is raw edge, That means we have to be very careful with our stitching. We're not going to be basting together pieces of material with thread because it all is going to be seen in the end. So I'm going to walk you through everything. I have some tricks, some tips to help in case you're like worried about getting everything lined up perfectly. I have some ideas. Okay guys, let's get started. All right, so let's start with the CuteHeart pouch. So for this, you're going to need about half a yard of material for the exterior and half a yard of material for the interior. That's just gonna really depend on what you're using. If you're using like a jelly vinyl or a clear vinyl for any of the exterior pieces, obviously you don't need a lining piece there. So play around with that. Also remember, this is a raw edge project, which means we're not gonna have any seams sewn inside. So everything is gonna stay raw edge, which means your material needs to be raw edge material. For example, I'm using vinyl for the front and the back, and then for my lining, I'm using a water-resistant canvas. These all work really well left as is. I don't have to worry about fraying or anything like that. They also work really well with edge coating, so if I wanted to paint the edges so you don't see those raw edges, it'll still look really good. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that this is not a quilt cotton woven material project. This is a raw edge project. But here are all the pattern pieces. For the front of the pouch where you're going to have the zipper, you're going to have 2 cuts of your exterior material, and they need to be mirrored just like this. And then you're going to have 2 cuts of your lining material. They also need to be mirrored. Again, all this is optional, and another great option for lining material if you're just worried about all these pieces shifting is to use heat transfer vinyl on the back of this. Just coat it with heat transfer vinyl and then cut it out. And then there's your lining. You don't have to worry about it. I want to quickly mention that you're going to use the same template for all these pieces. You're going to use one template for the left side of the front, flip it over, use that same template for the right side of the front. But then for the back piece, you're going to use the same template, except you're going to just trace it on the fold. So flip this over and then go to this side and trace it so it's one piece. So these two are the same, except the front is just cut right down the center. That's the only difference. Also, if you're using some sort of cutting machine like a Cricut or a Silhouette or anything like that, make sure you check the size down here. It needs to be 1.5 inches. Some cutting machine softwares do resize these, so you want to make sure that this is the right size. So we have the 1.5 inch square on there. Just double check, and if you printed it, also make sure you check this, that it is 1.5 inch square. This is not going to be used for anything. It's just to make sure you did it right. So I have my back exterior and my back lining. Next, I have a zipper that is at least 8.5 inches long. This is not the finished size of the zipper. We are going to cut this down shorter, but we have to modify a little bit first, so you need it to be longer than necessary. The finished size is going to be about 7.5 inches long, but we need it longer for now. And then I have a zipper pull to go with that, and then I have just a little zipper end tab, and this is 1 inch by 2 inches, and this is just going to wrap around the end. I also like to use snaps on this pouch so that I can fold it in half. So I have one set of fashion snaps here, and then I have my little bag tag. So here's most of the other stuff I'll be using today. I'm using this 505 temporary adhesive spray. That's just to kind of hold material down. Because this is a raw edge project, we can't baste everything down like we normally do in a sewing project. Everything kind of just has to stay put, and then we sew it all at once. So to help with that, I use this. This isn't great with water-resistant canvas. It does not stick very well to it, but it sticks enough for me to do it. Next, I have some rivets. Rivets are a great option if you want to add a little D-ring. I would suggest like a 1/2 inch wide D-ring. You can just grab a scrap of fabric and wrap it around the ends. I'll make note of that as we go through the pattern. Another fun little option here if you want to add like a wristlet or a crossbody strap are these little items. I forgot what they're called, but I got them on Emmeline bags, and what you do is you pretty much just install it with a rivet. It's pretty neat. I'll see if I can add one of those in today's video. Next, I have some double-sided tape, something that's easy to sew over. My thread going through the top needle is a Tex 45 weight thread, and this is color Fairy Floss. Next, I have a needle I'll be using, which is a Microtex 8012 needle, and in the bobbin, I like to use a Gutermann thread. Because I'll be doing those snaps, and if you want to add rivets, I have my rivet press and a hole punch, a healthy supply of plastic clips, a lighter to clean up loose threads, because again, we will be seeing all of our threads today, so we want to keep it neat. And then I have an air erasing marker and a silver ink pen, and then as always, a seam ripper and stiletto. So you might be asking yourself what the heck this pattern piece here is for. This is optional if you don't want to cut out the back piece when you stitch it all together. I'm gonna talk more about this when we work on the Magic Mouse pouch, but you can also use the same one for the CuteHeart pouch. It can be difficult to line everything up right before we stitch it all together, and so if you don't want to have to be so precise, this is something that you might want to use. Go to the mouse pouch part of the tutorial and I'll show you a little bit more in depth what I'm talking about over there. So let's first work on our zipper. Now your zipper tape should be a number 5 zipper tape, and my zipper tape is about 1 1/4 of an inch wide. how wide your zipper tape is going to affect the finished size of the front of this. Just keep that in mind as we go through this, that not everything might line up perfectly, and that's okay. I'll walk you through that. But first thing I want to do is add my zipper pull to my zipper tape. Close that, and then when you close the zipper, you see you have a side over here that stays closed, and then when you open it, you have a side that opens. So we want to work on the open side. We're just going to open that up just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch my zipper, and what I want to do is I want to bring this raw edge right here on the end, fold it back to meet with the side edge over here. So by pinching this in half, the coils are going to go up and away from the center, and I'm just going to kind of maneuver this to get those raw edges over here to match up with the side edges. How far this is going to depend on how wide your zipper tape is. And then I'm just going to grab my lighter, and I'm carefully melting down the side of these here and then pinching it with my fingers, not while it's really hot. I'm not burning myself with this. There we go. And that kind of holds it in place. I will still take it to the sewing machine, but that's just a fun, quick little way to hold these ends in place so you're not fighting it at the machine, trying to keep it all together. So I'm going to repeat this on the other side. And again, my goal is just to get the raw edge to meet up with the side here. There we go. And then I just melt it and pinch it. There we go. So now you see when you close your zipper, these will stay like this so you don't have the zipper flying off. So now I am going to still go to the machine, and I'm just going to top stitch right over the very outer edge at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance just to hold these folds in place. Once you have those secure, close your zipper so you can have it fully extended like this. And now we want to cut this zipper tape down so that the finished size from the folded over edge here onward is 7.5 inches. So you're going to cut off from the raw edge side on the right. Once you have that cut down to size, grab a lighter and just melt off the raw edge of your zipper tape here so that it doesn't fray. So now grab your zipper end tab and lay it wrong side up, and then grab a small ruler. And I'm just going to mark a midpoint line going along the longer edges, so it's 1/2 inch up, just like that. And I like to use a little bit of double-sided tape to help with this. So I'm going to cut off a small piece of double-sided tape and put it on one side of that midpoint mark, just like that. Remove the paper. And then with the zipper tab wrong side up and my zipper right side up, I'm going to lay the bottom edge of my zipper over that tape so that the raw edge meets up with that midpoint line. And then I'm just going to fold this over so the zipper tab is wrong sides together, right sides out. You might find it helpful to use some clips here. And just clip this so that those long edges are meeting up along the side, just like this. And now we're going to go top stitch right along those raw edges of the zipper tab at 1/8 inch seam allowance. Once you have that top stitched, you're going to trim down the width of that zipper tab so it's the same as the zipper tape. And there you go. Now you have your zipper all ready to go. Next thing we want to do is mark the midpoint on the zipper. So I'm just going to fold the zipper in half, bringing both the edges together, and then pinch right at the middle. You can use a marking tool if you'd like, or you can use scissors. I like to use scissors. However, always remembering that zipper tape does fray. I'm going to grab my lighter and just gently boot those little nicks that I made with my scissors so that they don't fray as this is used. Next, grab your 2 front exterior pieces that are mirrored and also your lining pieces if you're using lining pieces. And let's mark the midpoint along the inner straight edge of the exterior pieces. I'm going to do it the same way that I did the zipper tape. I'm just going to bring the ends of those straight edges together and then pinch right in the middle. And then use my scissors to just clip the teeniest, tiniest triangle. And I'm going to start with the right side, so I'm going to take the right side exterior piece, and I'm going to lay it right side up, and then I'm going to take my zipper, and I'm going to lay my zipper right side down, and the zipper pull, when closed, needs to be going towards the top of the heart, and then match up those midpoint marks on that straight edge there, and clip the zipper and the exterior right sides together. And now let's just go baste along this edge at 1/8 inch seam allowance. If you're not using a lining, then you can go ahead and just sew along this edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So once you have that basted on, if you're using a lining panel, you're going to grab your lining panel, and that's this one actually over here, and you're going to lay it right side down. So when you lay it right side down, they should match up exactly. So these go together on the left side. So then we're just going to match them up along the long edges and then just clip these together so it's exterior and lining right sides together with the zipper sandwiched in between. Make sure everything matches up exactly. And now we want to sew along this clipped edge at a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance. Like I said, how this is going to lay out with the back piece depends on the width of your zipper, but it also depends on how you stitch this. So it is designed for a 3/8 inch seam allowance. However, if it's too big or the top stitching is too much, then it might not quite reach the edges of the back panel. I'm probably going to have that happen with mine, so I'll show you that. But I just do just a little tiny bit less than a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Okay, so I did a terrible job with the scant part of that 3/8 inch seam allowance. I was like right on 3/8 inch. So this will show you though what I'm talking about. So let's take our lining and we're going to flip that away from the zipper. You can press this with an iron if you'd like, or you can finger press it. I find it easier to pull the zipper closed all the way. And then we're going to flip the lining and the exterior wrong sides together. And once again, if you're using a jelly vinyl or a clear vinyl for the front, you won't have a lining here, so you don't have to worry about it. All you're gonna do is flip the exterior material away from the zipper just like this, and then you'll top stitch that part down just without lining. But if you do have a lining, you really want to make sure you match up all the edges. So I'm pulling this down here to get these matched up as perfectly as possible. We have cleanup in the end of this, so everything doesn't have to be perfect the entire time you're constructing, but taking your time here is how you're going to get the best results. All right, once you have this flattened out and it's straight right along the zipper, we're going to top stitch right along this exterior material next to the zipper at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way from top to bottom. All right, there you go. Half of it's done. Now we just going to repeat that with the other side. I'm going to walk you through it because I got to do it anyway, so might as well take you along. So just like before, I have my midpoint marked on the long inner edge of my exterior panel, and I also have my midpoint on my zipper, and I'm just going to flip my zipper and my exterior right sides together, and I'm going to match up those midpoint marks. And now I'm just going to base along this clipped edge at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Next, with the zipper wrong side up, grab your remaining lining panel and lay it right side down, matching up the long edge of the lining panel with the long edge of that exterior panel that you just basted in place, and clip these together. Now, if you're using a heat transfer vinyl on the back of your exterior, you're going to treat it just like you would a clear vinyl, which means no lining, anything like that. You're just going to sew it on at the 3/8 inch seam allowance, just like you did with clear vinyl. So now once again, I'm going to sew this at a 3/8 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end. Remember I told you I did forget to do the scant 3/8 inch seam allowance, so because of that, I'm going to just do a 3/8 inch seam allowance on this side. Whatever seam allowance you use on one side, you need to make sure you do it on the other side, even if it's wrong. Just make sure you do it the same on both sides. We can fix things in the end. Alrighty, once again, press the lining away from the zipper. I just like to use my fingers for this. And then flip this over and then press the exterior also away from the zipper, just like that. And then line up all those raw edges. So pay close attention to the raw edges and bring them so the lining and the exterior are wrong sides together. And just clip these together. Now flip this over and we're going to top stitch right along the exterior over by the zipper at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. How sweet is that? Isn't that already looking cute? I love it, even though my vinyl is all wrinkly. I know, I'm so lazy. I should have flattened that out, but I didn't. Okay, before we move on to pretty much the last bit, I'm going to add my bag tag. I know that I will be riveting this and kind of wearing it like this, just like a pouch. So I like my bag tag to go right underneath one side of the zipper, centered like this. However, if you think you're not going to be doing the little snaps and you're going to leave it more flat, you might want to put your bag tag more centered on one side, maybe up higher. Put it wherever you want. Just don't put it anywhere too close to the seams because we will be sewing there. Also, you might have to trim some of those down later, so try to keep it more centered. But I'm going to take my pouch and I'm going to fold it in half, bring in the zippers together just like that. And then I'm going to grab an air erasing marker and just mark the midpoint. And I'm going to grab a little bit of double-sided tape to put on the back of my bag tag. Just add that there. Take the paper off. And now I'm just going to center this so it's about 1/2 of an inch down from the seam and centered on that midpoint mark. And again, you can always eyeball this. If you're like, well, that's the midpoint, but it looks a little funny down there, I want it more up here, then move it around. Put it wherever you want. It doesn't have to be precise. So what I want to do now is unclip the lining from the exterior, if you have a lining. Move it out of the way. And I'm just going to go stitch down this bag tag at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, making sure my lining is out of the way. I don't need to sew the lining in place. All right, once you have that stitched in place, if you did that, just reclip your lining and your exterior together, because the next part is I would say it's the hardest part. None of this is really that difficult, but it is the hardest part. So now I have my back panel, and I have an exterior panel and a lining panel. And since I'm not using binding, I'm not basting these together. If you want to baste them together, go for it. If you want to try binding, go for it. I'm not good with binding. So instead what I'm going to use is some temporary adhesive. 505 is great. We use this a lot for quilting. It's great because you can sew over it and you don't have to worry about your machine getting all gummed up. It's not great with water resistant canvas because it doesn't stick great to this long term, but for a very quick sew, it'll work in a pinch. So I'm just lining up the exterior and the lining wrong sides together, just like that. And now let's see, I'm going to take my front panel and I'm going to lay it lining side down, so lining sides together. And when I do this, I'm worried about the center. I'm trying to make sure I get the center lined up first. So the notches at the top here, get those lined up, and then get the bottom centered lined up. You might find, I don't know if you can see, but mine do, you might find that the exterior expands more around the rounded bits than the top piece does. So the back piece here is sticking out more than the top piece. That's okay. That just has to do with seam allowances on your zipper. If they don't match up perfectly, I'm fine with that. You actually can pull them to match up perfectly, and you'd have a little bit of like a poof here, which is, if that's the design you want, go for it. However, it's okay if they don't match up perfectly. And so I want to show you, this isn't so difficult with the CuteHeart, but a little bit more difficult with the Magic Mouse. This is where that other template comes into play. So this is another one. You would cut this out on the fold so you have a big piece here, you see? So if I lay this like that, and then I take my top panel, and imagine that I also already have the same size back panel with the lining. So I sprayed them together just like I did on my back one over there. I can lay this on top of it and see how much bigger it is than my top panel. Then I could just use some paper tape or just hold it in place, and I can top stitch this in place like this, and then just trim down the back panel and the back lining to match up perfectly with my top panel. So that's the point of this, is so that all the bits don't have to line up perfectly. Again, with the CuteHeart pouch, it's really not that big of a deal. We don't have a whole lot going on. But with a more technical design, like the Magic Mouse or future designs we might have, this is a great option to top stitch things and make it look really nice without worrying about everything lining up perfectly. But like I said, with the heart, we're actually okay. So I'm going to line this up to the best of my ability. So I always start in the center on the top and bottom by the zipper, and I'm clipping all these together. And if you wanted to baste the top panel and then the back panel separately so that you don't have to worry about the lining and stuff moving around, I encourage you to do that. It's just, you'll see those in the end unless you add binding. And if you do add binding, that's amazing. I'd love to see it. I will tell you, I tried. I'm not good with binding on easy projects, so I definitely did not succeed with the binding on this project. But I'm just clipping all this together. So this is the finished look, right? This is how it's gonna look in the end. Lining is inside, exterior is outside. It's all together. There you go, and I'm really hoping you can see this. Let me do another background, but do you see this black strip coming out the side? That's the back panel being wider than the front panel. See it over here as well? That's okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch around the entire outer edge of this heart at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm using it off of the front panel. So remember, my back panel sticks out a little bit further. I'm doing 1/8 of an inch off the top front panel because whatever's overhanging in the end, I'm gonna cut off. So I don't wanna use that with my seam allowance. I am gonna backstitch at the beginning and the end. I do like to start and stop over here by the bottom. I feel like you don't see the stitches so much down there. And my best piece of advice for this one, and especially the next pouch, put your machine on the slowest setting and just go very slow. How stinking pretty is this? Okay, so cleanup time. So like I said, anywhere where I have overhang, I'm just gonna carefully trim it down. So I'm just running my scissors right along the edge of the top piece and just trimming down the back piece. If you're using Edgecoat, you definitely wanna do this because when you edge coat the edges, all of the raw edges need to match up with one another. But even if you're not using Edgecoat, it just looks neater And then I'm going to flip this over, and I have a couple spots where the front is actually peeking through, so I'm going to also trim that down. Just take your time going back and forth here. All right, that looks so cute, and you see when we fold it in half, it looks just like this. How sleek and pretty is that? All right, so next I'm going to add my fashion snaps. Fashion snaps are completely optional. If you just want to leave it as a zip pouch like this, you're more than welcome to do that. Again, this would be a fantastic Valentine's gift for a classroom. If you have a bunch of fun vinyl you want to use, you could definitely whip up a lot of these quickly. And then just, if you want to spend more time, you can embroider kids' names on it. I have, there's lots of ideas, but it all takes time. But I do like to add the snaps. So I will have placement marks on the pattern piece for you to know where to put the snaps, or where I like to put the snaps. You put them wherever you want. My goal is to kind of get them as far as I can out on the edge without being too close to the stitching. So that's why the marks I have on the pattern piece are where they are. I'm just going to use a hole punch here to punch a hole. And you could also use plastic cam snaps if you prefer. Okay, so I like to have the female end on the same side as my bag tag, because the female end has the cap. So this is this nice little finished cap look. So that's going to go over here on the right. And on the back side, I'm going to have the little donut just like this. So I need to make sure I use the proper die set for that. So I'm going to grab the bottom die that looks kind of like a bowl. And then I'm going to grab the top die that has like a little pokey bit hanging out in the middle. And with the cap on the right side, on the top side, I'm going to lay that so the cap is down in the bowl. And we're looking at the back, right side up. And then I'm going to take the donut piece and just insert that over. And then I just have to gently push this in place. And there we go. So remember, it's going to snap on the back. So for the next bit, you want to take the long edge here, the piece that has the long piece on it, and you're going to insert that from the right side. So the top right side, flip this over, and then take the kind of shorter little nub piece, put it over that prong on the back side so that these two pieces can come together and snap in place. I know it seems obvious, but those are easy things to forget when you're building this, and then it's like, oh no, I put in my snap the wrong way. How do I get it out and fix it? And it's not a problem you need to have. So we're just going to insert the die set for the male side of the snap and just press this in place. And there we go. Now we can snap these together. And you see, you can have a little pouch like this. And what's fun is it's like two pockets with one zipper. You have each side. You can separate things, and they'll stay separate as long as it stays snapped. Or you can open it up and you can just have it as one big pocket. So we're not going to be making crossbody straps or wristlet straps today, but I did want to show you that if you wanted to take a little 1/2-inch D-ring, and then I have a little piece of vinyl here that's about 2 inches long by 1/2 inch wide, you could just wrap this around the top here, see? And then grab a rivet and rivet it in place. And now you have a D-ring attachment here. You can attach a wristlet strap. You can put it on the bottom as well. And you can create a crossbody strap for this so that you could wear this like a crossbody. It's a fun option. Another fun little option are these little things here, which I got off of Emmeline Bags, and they're called corset rings. These are cool. I don't know if I'm using them right or not, but this is how I use them, and they're really cool. So I'm gonna actually use them on this one just to show you. So you'll need 1 or 2, depending if you want to make it just a wristlet or if you want to make it a crossbody. I'm going to put 2 on here just for fun. And then you're going to need a couple rivets to go with it. And pretty much how this works is that it has this like little itty bitty D-ring. So remember, you're not going to use a 1-inch swivel hook on this. You're going to have to use something very small for this. But it has this little tiny D-ring here already attached. And what you do is you create a hole and then put this on here and then put the rivet through the hardware and also through the material, and then you just rivet it in place. It's very cool. So I'm going to grab my hole punch here, and I'm just going to punch a hole up below the top stitching. So below the top stitching, closer to the zipper and centered. This should be easy for you to eyeball. I'm going to grab my other rivet press because I already have the dies on there. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up over that hole that I just punched. I'm going to grab the rivet that has the stem on it, and I'm going to push that through the hardware and also through the material. Flip this over, looking at the back side, and then I'm going to grab the cap, and I'm just going to cap that in place. Move this stuff out of the way, keeping it straight. I'm just going to press this down. And look at that. It's like the easiest D-ring ever, and now you have that in place. So you can do the same thing on the bottom. I'll go ahead and do it on the bottom just to show you. But if you wanted to make it a wristlet, you could just do it on the top. I mean, this is the quickest way to add this. I want this in every size I want so many more of these. These are so cool. And there we go. Now we have 2 little D-rings here. We can get a nice small chain, and you could put a cute little chain on it. This would be great for middle schoolers, high schoolers, anybody really. And you could create like a very cute little mini crossbody bag. Or like I said, you could use a wristlet strap. How fun is that? So that's the CuteHeart pouch. I would say out of the 2, the CuteHeart's probably easier. So if you're just starting out, give this one a try first. Now let's work on the Magic Mouse pouch. I'm going to walk you through everything just like I already did. Because why not? Let's just do it. Okay, so putting together the Magic Mouse pouch is just the same as putting together the CuteHeart pouch. Same kind of thing. The only thing you might see that we have extras are, we have a couple bow pieces here. I'm not a bow maker. I've never made the cute little hair bows, but I thought it was a cool idea if we could have like a snap bow. So I'm going to show you that. This is totally optional though. If you don't want a bow, don't do the bow. But I do have 2 cuts of vinyl and 2 cuts of heat transfer vinyl, and I'm going to just try it out today, see how that works. The other big difference between this one and the zip pouch for the CuteHeart pouch is the length of the zipper. This zipper is going to be shorter in the end. So to start out with, you're going to want about a 7.5 inch long cut of number 5 zipper tape. My zipper tape is 1 1/4 inch wide. Remember, the width of your zipper, your seam allowance, all of that is going to determine how this all fits together. This pouch is a little bit more challenging when you're putting the back and the front together and getting everything lined up. So just keep that in mind. And don't forget, you do have the opportunity to use this extra template here if you don't want to cut out the back exact shape. You could cut it out around this size. So when we put it together, you can just top stitch it onto this and then trim it down to size so it's perfect. Just remember that, or you can cut it out exactly for the back. So once again, let me remind you to make sure you check your 1.5 inch box square down here to make sure that it did print correctly, or if you're using an SVG, make sure that it is the correct size. I'll have that on there as well. When you're cutting this out, the top pieces to go around the zipper, you're gonna cut one out just using this template. Right side up, you're gonna flip the template right side down, cut another one out. They should be mirrored. If you're using lining, do the same thing for the lining. When you're cutting out the back piece, if you're gonna cut out the back piece using this template instead of the overextended back piece, you're going to cut on the folds. You're going to just trace this out just like this. So remember, these come together and form the same size as the back piece. So just make sure you remember that when you're cutting everything out. So let's start with the zipper. So just add your zipper pull to your zipper tape. And we're gonna be focused on the end that opens when the zipper is open. So as you open the zipper, the left side over here opens up. We're gonna spread those apart. Grab my lighter. And I'm just gonna fold along my zipper tape so that the coils go away from the center and the top raw edge comes down to meet the side edge of the zipper tape. And then I'm going to grab my lighter and I'm going to carefully melt down these raw edges and then pinch them without burning myself to get them to stay in place. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, I like using the lighter to kind of temporarily hold it together, but now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch right along the outer edges at 1/8 inch seam allowance to hold these folds in place. So once you have the open end of the zipper stitched in place, measure from that end, so close your zipper all the way, and measure from the end you just stitched over towards the end, and cut it down to 6 1/4 inches long. Once you have that cut down, don't forget to grab your lighter and just melt down the edge of the raw edge of your zipper tape. Now once your zipper's all ready, take your zipper tab and lay it wrong side up, grab a ruler, and just mark a midpoint going along the back about 1/2 inch up from the long edges. And I like to grab some double-sided tape and just add some double-sided tape to one side going parallel to that line you just marked. And then remove the paper from the tape. And then with your zipper tab wrong side up with the tape on the left side here and my zipper tape right side up, I'm going to take that raw edge of my zipper tape and lay it right over that double-sided tape and making sure that the raw edge lines up with that midpoint mark. And then I'm just going to wrap this end piece around so that the long edges are matched up and the zipper is sandwiched in between them. There we go. Now we're just going to top stitch right along the raw inner edge here at 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, once you have that top stitch, just trim down that zipper tab so it's the same width as your zipper tape. So just cut off the excess. Now your zipper is all ready to install. Grab your 2 exterior front panels and also your 2 lining front panels if you're using a lining. If, again, you don't have to use a lining for this, no matter what kind of vinyl you're using. It doesn't have to be clear vinyl or jelly vinyl. If it's just, I mean, this is a fine backed finish. I'm not going to be putting snacks in here. I don't need it to be wipe downable. This is also not something I'd be throwing in the washing machine. So you don't have to do a lining if that feels like a lot of extra work. Or if it just seems like a lot of things to line up, especially for this design, because we do have all these corners that kind of have to line up together. Maybe if it's your first time doing this, don't use a lining, just use the vinyl for this. So now what you want to do is you want to mark the midpoints along both sides of your zipper tape and also mark the midpoint along the inner straight edge of your exterior front panels. And I'm going to start with the exterior right front panel facing right side up. I'm going to take my zipper, I'm going to lay it right side down. When the zipper closes, it should be going towards the top of the pouch. And I'm going to match up those midpoint marks and clip together. The zipper should not extend all the way to the ends of that straight bit. And now I'm going to go baste this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. If you're not using a lining, then just sew it down at a scant 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, next grab the lining panel that's going to go with this part. So when it's right side down, so the exterior and the lining are right sides together, they should match up exactly, just like this. And then just line it up with that inner straight edge that you just sewed the zipper to, and clip these together, right sides together, with the zipper sandwiched in between. And now I'm going to sew along this clipped edge here at a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance. If you're not quite sure about scant stuff and that kind of freaks you out, then just use a 3/8 inch seam allowance. It's going to be easier to put it all together if you use a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance, but don't worry about it otherwise. Alrighty, once you have it stitched in place, you're going to press the lining away from the zipper, and you're going to flip it back and then also press the exterior away from the zipper. If you're not using a lining, then just press that exterior away from the zipper. If you are using a lining, you need to spend some time here to get all of these edges matched up. And there's a lot to match up here, so take your time and clip the lining and the exterior wrong sides together, getting everything aligned just right. Okay, once you have this all clipped together, get the fold by the zipper as flat and straight as possible, and we're just going to top stitch right along this fold at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way from the top to the bottom. Alright, we have one side down, we're just going to repeat that with the other side. So grab your exterior left front side panel, lay it right side up, take your zipper and lay it right side down, and match up those midpoint marks and clip together, right sides together. Then I'm going to go baste along this clipped edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have that basted, grab your lining panel and lay it right side down, matching up the long straight edge with the edge you just top stitched, and clip together. And now let's sew along this clipped edge at a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance, or whatever seam allowance you use on the other side. Just be consistent. If it was 1/4 inch, then do 1/4 inch. If it was 3/8, do 3/8. Whatever you use on the other side, use on this side. I'm using a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance, back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once that's all stitched in place, you can iron this. I probably should have ironed this, honestly, because look at those wrinkles. But iron it or finger press the material wrong sides together. If you're using vinyl, which you should be, vinyl or some sort of rouge material, don't iron that. So don't put an iron on that part. But we're just going to bring these wrong sides together, and we're going to line up all the edges and all of these little nooks and crannies around the ears. Just get everything lined up to the best of your ability. We're gonna clean this up. If you watch the cute pouch part of this tutorial, you saw that we clean it up in the end, but you know, you don't want to make more work for yourself. You don't want a headache here. You don't want to accidentally not catch the lining whenever you're top stitching in the very end or anything like that. You want to make sure that everything works out. All right, once you have that all flattened out and lined up, top stitch right along this folded edge by the zipper at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way from the top to the bottom. Okay, how cute is that looking? So now I'm going to add my bag tag. So I'm going to grab a little piece of double-sided tape and put it on the back of my tag here. And I like to add it to the right side because when I fold this, that's just kind of how I tend to look at it. I am just going to eyeball this. So you can put this wherever you'd like. You can put it straight like this if you'd like. You can put it on the ear. Put it wherever you want. I like to go about 1/2 of an inch down from the seam and centered-ish. Centered-ish. I'm eyeballing it. And I'm going to remove the clips holding the lining and the exterior lined up. And then we're going to move the lining out of the way, and we're going to take this to the sewing machine and just top stitch along all the 4 edges of my bag tag at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure I don't catch the lining while I'm stitching this in place. All right, once you have your tag stitched in place, if you did a tag, just make sure you reclip your lining and exterior So now I'm going to grab my back pieces. I have my exterior back piece and I have my lining back piece, and I'm going to use some 505 spray to hold these together. Because I'm not binding this, if I baste these together, which is preferable, it's preferable to lay these together and then baste them at the sewing machine, you're going to see those basting stitches in the end. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to use some adhesive spray. And I will tell you, this adhesive spray does not work very well with water-resistant canvas at all, but it works enough temporarily, and you can sew over it without any problem. All right, so now with the back panel, it's glued with the lining panel. Lining panel is right side up. I'm going to take my front panel, exterior side up, and I'm going to lay them together just like this. Now, they might not match up perfectly. That's very normal. So if you can see mine, you see all that blue peeking around the edge? That's the back panel lining, because these do not match up perfectly because of stitching. They are designed to match up perfectly, but being very exact with your stitching, with your top stitching, and with the amount of material that's lost, with the thickness of it, it doesn't always line up perfectly. So if this frustrates you, you have another option. You can use the overextended piece here, cut it on the fold, so you have a large back panel. So let's move that one over there. So you would do the same thing. You would have an exterior and a lining cut out of this piece here, glue them together just like we did with this back panel, and then lay this on top just like that. Now you see it extends everywhere. You can use some tape here to tape it together, or just use clips on these outer pieces to clip it together. It should stay. And then top stitch from the top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. And then when you're done top stitching it, just trim down the lining and the exterior that's overextended, and you'll have a perfectly, placed pouch. You won't have to worry about lining up all the little nooks and crannies like we do if we cut out the back piece. So just think about that. But I'm going to stick with this one because I started it. So I'm going to lay them, again, linings right sides together, both from exterior on the outside. And I always start with the center, lining up the center to the best of my ability. There we go. And then I'm just going to clip all the way around, trying to get everything lined up as best as I can. And you might have to flip it around so you're looking at the back sometimes you're looking at the front. The goal here is that the back part overextends, not the front part, because we're going to be using the raw edge of the front part here as our guideline when we're top stitching. And that will make sure, as long as the back is sticking out further, that's okay. That means we're still catching it, so that's fine. However, if the back is not sticking out and it's more tucked in, you might not catch the back piece, which is not what we want. So just take your time here to get it all lined up, making sure the lining panels haven't slipped around on you. All right, once you've got it clipped as well as you can, we're gonna go and we're gonna top stitch along the entire edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm using, again, the top panels as my guidelines for that, making sure the back is covering everything. There we go. And just like before, put your sewing machine on the slowest speed possible. You can kind of run away with this because there's a lot of points we have to stop, pivot, carefully go around. So you want to go slow here, take your time. And I like to start at the very bottom, at the bottom of the zipper tab, and then back stitch at the beginning and the end. Alright, that turned out pretty good. Now you can see I have a lot of overhang here. That's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to trim it up, and it's totally up to you how you feel about that. Maybe you want to leave the overhang, you want to be done, that's fine. It still looks really cute. If you're going to be edge coating though, you do want to make sure you trim off the overhang, because when you use the edge coating paint, all the raw edges have to be lined up at the same spot. So you got to make sure you trim this down. So just carefully take some scissors and just trace along that top exterior seam. I'm just going to carefully go around the entire pouch doing this. And again, I'm looking at it from the front right side up, but I will also look at it from the back right side up just to see if I need to trim down anything that way. And you can see you're not losing the shape here. That's the nice thing. It's not so detailed that you lose, you know, the design by trimming down some spots. All right, once I have it trimmed down looking at the front, I'm gonna look at the back and just make sure I don't have any pieces hanging out on the back here. That all looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna add these little fashion snaps here. These are totally optional, and you could also instead use the plastic snaps if you think that's a better way to go, especially if you're making these for kids. The plastic snaps are fun because they could probably find some with little mouse head on them, and you can find, you know, flowers, hearts, things like that, which would be fun. But I'm just going to be using the metal fashion snap here. The pattern piece has where I place my fashion snaps, and you can put them wherever you want. I like them kind of on the most outer part of the design, but if you want to put them down here instead, totally up to you. Let me just show you. I'm going to take a hole punch, and I'm going to punch one hole out. And so if you're placing these somewhere else, figure out where you want it, punch one hole out, and then fold the unit in half, just like this. Get it all lined up. Find where you punch that hole out and then mark through the hole so you're on the other side, and then punch the hole out of the other side. That way you just make sure you get them in the same spot on both sides. Okay, I like the cap side to be over here on the right where my bag tag is, which means that the other side, the male side, is going to go over here on the left. So I'm going to take the long prong bit, and I'm going to insert that through the front, just like that. Flip this over. Looking at the back, I'm going to add the little smaller nub piece for the male side. And I already have my die set in here for that, so I'm just going to lay this on my die and press it down. Here we go. Flip this back over to the right side. Then I'm going to grab the cap part, and I'm going to put that on the right side here. Flip this over, grab the donut piece here, and lay that over that cap. And then I'm going to change out the die set in my rivet press for the female side. And then I'm just going to lay this into my rivet press and press down the female side. Here we go. Now I have my snaps, and whenever I close this, snap it together. Look how cute that is. And now I have 2 pockets, 1 zipper. Very, very cute. And if you watch the CuteHeart tutorial, you could add D-rings to this, just like I showed you over there. You could add those little corset hooks that we were talking about. Those are really cool. You could do that. However, for this one, I'm going to show you another option, which is just a decorative option, which is adding a bow. All right, listen, I'm not a bow person. I've never made little bows. They're adorable. My daughter was never into them. I was never into them. So I don't know a lot about bows. I watched a couple tutorials, and I got the general idea of how these work. So we're gonna just try it out. So I'm gonna give you a couple bow templates in the design. This is what I have for now. There might be more by the time you download this. I did design these myself after kind of seeing what the formula is for them. So I have 2 cuts of vinyl here, just regular sewing vinyl, and then I have 2 cuts of HTV, heat transfer vinyl. I have them both cut out, and I'm going to add the HTV to the back of my regular vinyl. And you could add this beforehand and then cut it together, so that you don't have to try to line them up perfectly like I am. You could also use a cutting machine. I think that's what most people use, is like a Cricut or something to cut these out. I just use my scissors. It is what it is. So I'm gonna lay some material over this pressing cloth, and I'm just going to press down this just to get it to adhere. You could press this down and with your Cricut heat press and all that. I think a small piece like this, I should be okay with just using my little iron here. So the goal here is we just really want to make sure that glue on the heat transfer vinyl melts enough and sticks into the fibers of our vinyl, of the back of our vinyl, remember, not the front. But we also want to be careful with just our regular vinyl because we press it too much and we're going to warp it. Especially with a vinyl like this that has a texture to it, I don't want to flatten it out. That seems good, so I'm going to set that to the side. I'm going to repeat this with the other one. This type of super glittery heat transfer vinyl, it has like a plastic coating over it to protect it, and it works best to remove that plastic coating after it's cooled off. I've found that when I try to remove the plastic coating, I don't know if it's called a carrier sheet, I don't know what it's called, but when I try to remove that plastic piece while the material's still hot, it just gets all gooey and comes up, so we're not going to do that. All right, so now once it's cooled off, I'm going to remove the plastic. There we go. All right, so I have my bow pieces prepped, and then I have another set of fashion snaps because that's how I'm going to attach all this. So here's the bow. let's just work through this. I'm gonna grab my hole punch while I do this. How we do this, so like for the circle one, you're gonna take the little nub and fold it in, wrong sides together to meet up with that center rectangle bit. Do the same thing on the other side, overlapping them. And look, it's a bow. Isn't that fun? So make sure they overlap well, and then grab your hole punch and punch in the center of where they all overlap, going through all the layers. There we go. And if that opens up, that's okay. But I can grab a clip here to hold it together. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other piece of the bow. I'm gonna make a little multi-layered bow here. I didn't on the first one. Let me pull that out for you. So you can see here's the first one here. And this didn't even have the heat transfer vinyl. This is just that one circular piece. But I'm gonna try to layer it up. Why not? Let's get fancy. So once again, we just fold those nubs back to meet in the center. Grab a hole punch. Make sure it's centered and punch through all of them. There we go. And now I'm gonna grab the snap pieces for the female part. So it's the little donut in the cap. And looking at the top, so not where it's folded over on the back, but the top here of this more narrow bow piece, I'm gonna take my little cap piece and stick it through that hole. This might not work because this is too many layers. We'll see. And I'm also gonna stick it through the other one. Yeah, it looks like my fashion snaps. Well, if I layered them up like this, it would look like this. Let me go see if I have some plastic snaps, actually. That might be better here. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have snaps that are long enough. So there's a lot of layers here. And in order to get this to work, I have to be able to get my pokey bit of my cap through all the layers. And I just don't have that. So I'm just gonna have to use one of these. I'm gonna use the smaller one this time since I used the larger one on the other bag. And you can readjust the size of these to make them really big, really small, however you'd like. So for the bow part, I have the cap on the right side, and then on the back here where it folds over, I'm gonna put my little donut piece there. And then I already have the die set in my rivet press, so I'm just going to press this in place. There we go. And then I'm gonna grab my pouch, and I'm going to punch a hole just below the top stitching. So just below the top stitching, closer to the zipper, centered, but close to the top stitching. But we don't want to punch a hole through any thread. And then I'm going to grab the male part of my snap, and I'm going to take the long prong bit through the back side. There we go. And then the short stubby bit is going to go over that on the front side. And then I'm going to switch out my dies for the male side here. And then I'm just going to press this in place. So you can see with this one, I have the snap there. I can snap my bow in place. How cute is that? So there's the difference between the two different, I mean, there's not a big difference, but there's a bit of a size difference. It'd be cool if we could layer them. I'd also like to make a much bigger one. I think that would be cool. But you see now when we fold this in half, we can just snap it like that. How stinking cute are these? And they're quick, right? They're quick and easy. I hope you guys love making these. And if there's any other shapes you want to see, let me know. My word, you guys, these things are so cute, aren't they? Look at those little boo babies on the back. I love them. These are so stinking cute. And they're so quick. Once you get the hang of it, it's very, very quick. So if you're going to make a bunch of these for Valentine's Day, I think it's a good option. I think it's a good project for that. And this one, I know some of you guys were like, I have a trip coming up. I really want to make something like that. I want to play with the bow idea more. I hope you guys like the bow templates that come with this. But if you have your own bow ideas, make sure you share them. If you make these and you definitely get more creative with them, let me know. Share it on social media, and you can tag me. I'm OklaRoots on all social media, so just tag me. I'd love to see what you make. If there's other shapes you guys are interested in, let me know. I have a couple ideas for some other shapes, which I think will be really cute. So we might have a second bundle coming out at some point with other shapes. But for now, we have the magical mouse and we have the cute heart. And I really, really hope you guys love making this. There was a lot of excitement when I kind of teased it on social. So I hope you guys have fun making it. Let me know. Just let me know. And again, if you want to watch this video every time, I'm here. Say hi every time in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much for sewing with me today. I hope you have a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope that you are inspired to go make something and have a lot of fun with these patterns. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you click subscribe down below. Also make sure you hit that little bell, the little notification bell. That's gonna make sure you're notified every single time we have a new video or when we go live. For even more fun content from OklaRoots, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. We do daily stories over there, which include unboxing, talks about books, other little mini tutorials, lots and lots of discussion over all kinds of things going on. You can also find us on TikTok and also on Reels for even more fun, kind of more random content. And if you really want to dive in for some behind the scenes content, free gifts, access to shop items before anybody else, and influence on upcoming videos, make sure you go check out OklaRoots over on Patreon. We have a lot going on over there and it's a fun place to hang out, and you are directly supporting the OklaRoots YouTube channel. These videos could not be possible without the help of my patrons. So thank you so much to everybody over there. Thank you again for watching today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the videos. Go make something.